Aha! You clicked on this video, but wait, don't just read the title and scroll down to the comment section to say how stupid I am just yet. Hear me out on this one. Seriously, you'll be shocked. Now, I didn't buy this, but I sort of egged on my dealer buddy Bob at Euro-Asian Auto Inc. to buy this thing where it's currently available for sale because I really hadn't paid attention to the H3 since it came out over a decade ago. And it always dismissed it as another ridiculous knockoff of the mighty Hummer military vehicle. I realized after looking at this one at auction last week that I was totally wrong, and I'm never wrong, ever. But first, let's get through all the negative points people bring up with the H3, and that conversation always starts with the styling. So, yeah, it's kind of ridiculous, but compared to the plastic fantastic Hummer H2, this thing is much more conservative. It's like the designers at Hummer listened to everyone that was pointing and laughing at the H2 and styled back the extra plastic crap by about 80%. Personally, I'm a fan of the look of the H3, as it's not a blobby four-door SUV like everything else that's being made then and mostly since, but even with 80% less plastic crap, there's still quite a bit. The next thing people complain about is the terrible performance, and I really don't understand this one much either. Yeah, the 0 to 60 is about 11 seconds, but so is the 2007 Jeep Wrangler Unlimited. But I guess people complain about how slow those were too, I guess. Still, the Jeep and the H3 were built with off-roading in mind, not merging onto a highway. And I can't help but like the idea of a simple inline 5-cylinder engine under the hood of this Hummer. Like a throwback to the simpler Jeeps of olden times that everybody loved, and Jeep decided to quit making because that's what auto manufacturers do. To further add to this Hummer's off-road credit, it has great approach and departure angles, it has great ground clearance, it also has optional body armor in locking differentials, and these giant door knockers mounted to its frame.
Lucy, I'm home! Hello?
Yes, the H3 shared a frame with the Chevy Colorado and GMC Canyon, whereas most small and mid-size SUVs are just car-like unibodies. They even offered them with a manual transmission, and in later years, a 5.3-liter V8. But not surprisingly, most people bought them because they thought they looked cool and had no intentions of taking them off-road. And the $29,000 starting price certainly opened the door to a lot of people who never dreamed of owning a Hummer before. So yeah, most of the H3s you find are the cheaper, less equipped automatic models like this one, and like this one, they usually get pimped, but they're still pretty darn good in this configuration. And since it's an orphan, they're a pretty darn good car value as well. Currently, there are 158 of these on Autotrader.com for sale right now for less than $10,000, but only 10 of those have a manual transmission. Since it shares most of its mechanical parts with the Chevy Colorado, I imagine sourcing parts for repairs isn't too hard either.
Oh, it's way too cold, it's way too cold. Get it off the rock. Oh!
Now, the biggest improvement the H3 had over the H2 is the interior, as General Motors finally quit sourcing their interior plastics from Fisher-Price and actually spent more than 30 seconds thinking about the fit and finish. The buttons are well laid out as well, and the cloth seats have an interesting military-ish mesh-like material, and it has a giant sunroof. The luxury trimmed interior is even nicer looking with contrasting leather stitched seats. This new civilized interior would have made it much easier to justify buying an H3 as a family vehicle, and tons of people did just that. Actually, driving this thing is really weird compared to most normal SUVs, as the truck underpinnings definitely make it feel bigger than it is, and it has a low roofline with these giant pillars that could hide a Prius behind them, and it makes the visibility kind of a joke, but it's fun. You feel like you're in a little tank. They made every part of this car as masculine as they could, like the gear selector and all the switches. And they even made the steering wheel extra thick and girthy. And I can't wait until somebody uses that phrase out of context in a mashup video. So this thing really is kind of cool, and initially sales for the H3 were pretty good, as there wasn't any other four-door SUVs this interesting for the price with some off-road cred. General Motors' banking arm, GMAC, was also still in full swing, taking iffy credit buyers and zero money down, and long payment terms to get people into these trucks that probably had no business buying them. Then 2008 happened and gas shot up to $5 a gallon and the economy tanked and nobody wanted a gas-guzzling SUV, especially a smaller one like this one with no third row seating or towing capacity. Well, actually that's not quite right because some people did, but by then Jeep was making the four-door Wrangler Unlimited and that's what everybody bought and to this day remains the king of affordable four-door off-roaders. Sales of the H3 in 2008 were half of 2007 sales and 2009 sales were half of 2008's, and Hummer's parent company, General Motors, began circling the drain fast. Hummer's final Hail Mary pass was the introduction of the H3T, a small pickup version of the H3, which people have been begging Jeep to make a Wrangler version of for the last 10 years, but sadly, it wasn't enough to save the Hummer brand. I remember hearing about this back in the day, but I can't find any data to back it up, that the H3 was also one of the most commonly repossessed vehicles at the time, as people couldn't afford to keep them in the economic downturn and high gas prices. With GM's bankruptcy in 2009, the Hummer brand couldn't find a buyer and was ultimately discontinued. Many people said good riddance, but after spending a few days with this H3, I kind of think it's a shame. If General Motors had kept going and the economy didn't go to hell, Hummer may have continued to innovate and learn from its massive mistake with the H2, and we would have more than one option of affordable American-made off-roaders. And if you still think I'm an idiot for thinking this way and the H3 is just H2 Light or Diet H2 or even the nasty Crystal H2, hit the like button. And as always, thank you for watching. I'm Steve Rogers, Captain America. He jumps just like that, doesn't he?